Most of the time, if you were to ask me what my favorite gospel passage is, I would respond Luke 5, 1 through 11, the call of the first disciples. But then every Easter, I'm reminded that there's another gospel passage which I like better, and it's the one we just read today. And to me, it's such a profound experience of the resurrection, and a very, very tender. It almost feels like Jesus is playing with Mary to a certain extent, kind of this resurrected playfulness in his spirit. And I think that the encounter that he has with Mary is something that can touch the heart of each one of us. And whenever I read this passage, my eyes, my imagination center specifically on one phrase: "Woman, why are you weeping?" And when we first, maybe if we just first read through the gospel, it makes sense. The angels had noticed this. Now Jesus notices this, and he's going to resolve it later by revealing himself to her. But I think that question can actually be, for each one of us, a deep examination of conscience. Why are you weeping? I think of the different reasons why I cry, or why I weep, or why I lament, and most of the time it's very selfish, right? And a lot of times it'll go back to my attachment to myself. It might be because I feel offended, or it could be because I feel lonely, or it could be that I feel beset by temptation. So all these different things, but at the end of the day, it's why is it? It's because I put myself at the center. And whenever we put ourselves at the center, we end up miserable. It's not the way to happiness to just be seeking our own happiness and to put ourselves in the center. Our modern phrase of, number one. Who's number one? Well, I'm number one. It's a terrible philosophy, and one that always leads to tremendous disappointment. And I think that we can feel somewhat jealous of Mary Magdalene, and learn something from her. Because why is she weeping? She's weeping because she misses Jesus. And that, he had changed her whole life. She knew who he was. She knew that here was somebody who had reinterpreted her past and given her a new future. So often we can fall into the same error that Mary Magdalene fell into before her encounter with Christ. And we allow other people to define who we are. Mary Magdalene was somebody who was discarded by all of society around her and used by the lower strata of society. And then when Jesus encountered her, everything changed. And he looked at her with comprehension, with understanding, and with love. And his love changed even the way that she saw herself. And so when she loses Jesus, when she sees the terrible sight of the crucifixion, it's devastating for her. Because here is the one whom I loved, but here's also the one who loved me, the one who gave meaning to my life, the one who reinterpreted and redefined who I am. And to lose him is to lose everything. And her heart was so full of love that she felt that longing more intensely. And so for Mary Magdalene, there wasn't even a question of whether she was going to the tomb, because for her it seemed the least that she could do to somehow render homage to the body of her Lord. And upon discovering that the body was gone, devastation upon devastation, and she weeps. But she weeps not because of attachment to herself, not simply because of loneliness, not because she's overcome by temptation. She weeps because she misses Jesus. And it's this tremendous love that touches the heart of Jesus as well. And that love is mirrored back to her in his simple saying of her name, Mary. And all of a sudden she recognizes the Lord. So I feel like today's gospel is something that's very powerful. It's good for us to sit with, to stand before, to kneel before a resurrected Lord and let him ask us, why are you weeping? And we can kind of make an inventory of our heart, see what is there, see where there is that attachment to self, where there are those temptations, those offenses that sometimes we even just make up in our own mind, worried about what other people have done to us. But then look as well for that love that we have in our heart that also makes us miss Jesus, and respond to him and have a dialogue with him. Why are you weeping? And really expose to him the depths of our heart. And then at the end of the prayer, to hear our name. To hear our name pronounced by Jesus and know that we are truly in his hands and that we have so much reason to rejoice because he is risen. And so when we hear our name pronounced by him, well, then it's a reason for great hope and for increasing our love for him.